NERDSoul.
The show that I've been watching for the past couple of years has been American Gods on Stars. And just to give you guys a little bit of a rundown, it's a road trip movie starring Odin and another dude, and he goes to see a bunch of gods and a whole bunch of different pantheons. One of which happens to be one that I'm tied to personally, being the African spider god and the keeper of all stories and wisdom, Anansi, played by our good man from Mad TV.
Yep.
And we're talking from Mad TV. We're talking from
Sleepy Hollow.
He's got a prolific history, and played by our good friend Orlando Jones. Tell him a little bit about the show from your perspective, bro.
The show from my perspective is, you have these beings or gods that kind of survive off of the belief and the worship of us humans. The older gods, people still believe in them, but they're, much fewer than it used to be back in the day before we had technology. Now, newer gods, which, they have to fight against, or American gods are gods like money or technology. War. Well, war is kind of down with the new gods, but that's a whole other thing. Anyway, the point is the newer guys that are based on technology, social media, stuff like that, is it media or just mass media? I can't remember. I think it's media. She got changed to new media.
It was media and Turtle. In total.
Yeah, and then she got changed to new media. But, those new guys have way more followers than the old guys. The new guys want to get rid of the old gods because they're like, we want all the worship, son. Like, we don't want to be sharing. We ain't sharing up in here. So it starts there, and there's this struggle. And like you said, there's a road trip trying to find people that can ally with the old guys and with the new guys to have this big grand showdown that I assume is coming or was coming, something like that.
Yeah, so that has been a huge thing. That's been a huge thing. And the show, funny thing about Neil Gaiman stuff, his stuff tends to work better. His stuff works better on screen than it tends to in the book for most Americans. I hate to say it, I really do, but that is the deal. That is what happens, and I can live with it whether or not I like it. And again, I've been following the man's work forever. But before we do anything else, I want to check in on NP City real quick, just to say hey.
Okay.
A special shout out to NP City. What's going on, guys? What's going on? We got the Vixen. We got Boom Chicka Boom Boom, our two top patrons that are going on there. And that's right. That's right. I keep all donations anonymous, but I have to give Boom a special shout out every single show, every single transmission, because she's at least at that tier. Isn't that fun? But yeah, so like I was saying, his stuff tends to translate really well to the screen. And I've really been watching the show. It's got Ian McShane, which is one of my favorite actors, and playing my family's patron god has been Orlando Jones. And recently, there has been a thing to where, as of last week, he was fired from the show.
Yeah. Or we found out he was fired from the show. But he was fired back in September. He was
fired from the show. And that became a thing. So, we are pulling up his tweet.
September 10th, 2018, I was fired from American Gods. There will be no more Mr. Nancy. Don't let these motherfuckers tell you they love Mr. Nancy. They don't. I'm not going to name names, but the new season 3 showrunner is Connecticut born and Yale educated, so he's very smart. And he thinks that Mr. Nancy's angry, get shit done is the wrong message for black America. That's right. This white man sits in that decision-making chair, and I'm sure he has many black BFFs who are his advisors and made it clear to him that if they did not get rid of that angry god, Mr. Nancy, he'd start a Denmark VC uprising in this country. I mean, what else could it be? To the wonderful Neil Gaiman, thank you for allowing me to play this role, for writing this wonderful book, for opening the door for me to become a writer-producer on season 2 of American Gods. Thank you, sir. To the magnificent Brian Fuller and the incredible Michael Green, thank you for creating this series and for allowing me also to become Mr. Nancy. I hope the fans enjoyed it, because really this is about you. I hope you loved it as much as I loved doing it. And
yeah, so this dude, like, he is mad. He's got some hotness
not
going
playing
right now, you know. And don't get me wrong, I do not remotely blame him for the amount of anger that he's showing right there, because that's the thing I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about how he brought up something interesting about this new showrun, which is the New England Ivy League educated, that kind of thing. But the idea that we've got this new showrunner saying that they cut well, there are a couple of conflicting stories here. Okay. Story one was Mr. Nancy was cut because the anger gets things done speech that he gave back in season 1 is a bad message.
It's not. It's not the. I think it's what the not the message Black America needs right now.
Yeah.
Like something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Land of opportunity, milk and honey, and guess what? You all get to be slaves. Split up, sold off, and worked to death. The lucky ones get Sunday off to sleep, fuck, and make more slaves and all for what? For cotton, indigo, for a fucking purple shirt. The only good news is the tobacco your grandkids are gonna farm for free. It's gonna give a shitload of these white motherfuckers cancer. And I ain't even started yet.
Well,
100 years later, you're fucked. 100 years after that, fucked. 100 years after you get free, you still getting fucked out of job and shot at by police. You see what I'm saying? No.
now,
This guy gets it.
Now, that speech was rather powerful. I'm trying not to get flagged in too many places, so it's one of them things, you know. But yeah, that speech was pretty powerful. And spoiler alert, it ends with those slaves burning down the ship because they're angry about it. And it was the message that I got from that was better dead than in bondage. Okay.
Yeah.
And the new showrunner cut a lot of people this season. And Orlando Jones was the first on the chopping block. And the reason that he gave was that is a bad message, or not a good message, to send to the African American community. And yeah, there are some words. There are some words there. Because one, it's a tough one for us. It's a tough one for me personally, because by what measure is good message or bad message measured? And second, who is this guy to say that this is good, that it's not? That is a big question. I talk a lot about euphemisms and the dishonesty behind certain statements, like it's not that I don't want to hang out, I'm just busy, you know? That's all. I'm just too busy for you. What are your thoughts on this? Well, actually, before I get to that, yeah. So it's like, well, that's a bad message to send, and I'm just kind of going, well, I look at these things and I try and have the discussion, because the part that this is missing is, well, if that is a bad message, what would a good one be? That's the thing that I'm just scratching my head about. I don't quite get it. You know what I mean? So, you know, what are your thoughts on this, man?
the interesting part here is that we know that the showrunner Charles Eglee or Eagle, I think it's Eglee, is a white gentleman, and it's interesting that he would be the decider of what is good for Black America, regardless of message. What would be a good, I don't know, a good pair of shoes, a good shirt, a good, dinner. For him to decide anything for Black America as a whole is interesting. With that said, I think Black America has already decided.
I love how you say interesting. It's like, it's interesting.
I think Black America has already decided on the message that they need, or the message that they want, because these clips of him from season 1 and season 2 have been shared and retweeted, and articles have been written about them from black media. So folks like myself, Blurdish, yourself, Thought Crimes, For All Nerds, Blur Girl, whoever, Black Tribbles, people, in that space have written about it. So he's, at least on the surface, seems to be disconnected from Black America, because it seems that Black America is enjoying this message, and it's the message that they want. Now, he says it's not what they need. Need is a different issue, because is it not what we need, or is it not what you want us to need?
Yeah, it's, and I think that is the point that's got a lot of people in outrage. Again, I'm kind of going, what is this dude thinking? Because he's kind of torpedoing the franchise, considering the sequel to American Gods is all about Mr. Nancy.
Yeah.
So if it's one of these things where it's like, well, I'm cutting you from the show right now, but get the sequel prepped because you got 4 seasons of that coming, and I want you to do more on that. That would be a thing, but we haven't heard word. But I had a discussion with someone yesterday, one of the dudes over at the Metropolis, and the hard R is being used a lot right now. And I wanted to talk to people and tell them why. I normally don't do politics and stuff on the show, but this is reflective of something that's an entertainment and games and a lot of nerd culture with that euphemism thing. Because, okay, there is only one god from Africa that's well known in Western civilization, okay? And that is Mr. Nancy. And we have a new person joining the chat, which is awesome. Thank you. Hey, I want to say hello to Miss Kawhi. How you doing, Miss Kawhi?
I'm good.
You can check out. We are live right now on Twitch TV, and we're at that euphemism part about American Gods. So if it's not specifically happening because of if it's not specifically happening because of hang on, boom, there we go. There, no. Okay, trying to unmute her. If it's not specifically happening, there we go.
Okay, I have a baby with me, that's why.
Oh, so does NERDSoul.
Okay.
It's a kid show today. So if this stuff isn't happening, you can turn on your camera as well, or you can not. It's just good to have you in the conversation.
Oh yeah, I'm walking in the dark. It's fine.
But so the euphemism is, this is not good for the Black community. Okay, that's cool. But one, what is the message that you would rather be putting out there, and why not have him do that without any statement on that front? The message that it seems you want to say is pretty obvious. Point 2, and this is a real big one. I was talking to someone from the Metropolis, like I said, and he brought up how this showrunner is trying to pull a Vikings and Game of Thrones and kind of make this very, very Eurocentric. And I'm like, well, why would you say that? And he's like, well, when Psychic Wheelchair Bird Boy wasn't in the show for most of season 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, he wasn't fired. You know, he filmed his stuff, but he was always on for the season after that. Same with most of the characters that were recurring, but not regular. Now, I don't know if this show has that kind of budget or what, but yeah. The other thing is they cut 2 other actors, and we'll get to those guys in a sec. But Kelly, what are your thoughts on this?
So my thoughts, I never got to finish the book, but I remember that god was an integral character, and I still haven't seen the rest of season 2. I've only seen a handful of episodes, but to me, he's one of the core characters on the show. And then the reason for the showrunner canceling it, he was just like the political climate. He's like, I don't want people all worked up. And basically, it's like, so you don't want black people to lash out and revolt because that's kind of what that god symbolizes.
Yeah.
Okay. But at the same time, it's like, that's why we fucking love him. Because, because you see, what's one of the reasons we watch television, that we watch TV, is it's like an outlet to do the things that we want to do, but we know we can't. That's what Mr. Nacy is to me on American Gods. So it's just like, it's like you want to say those things, you want to do those things, but you can't. And then they've fired him. They fired Orlando, and I love him to death. And it's just not right. It's like what they did to Gabrielle Union. She basically spoke out about racism on set and, all the double standards with Simon. And then instead of actually fixing it, they're like, oh, we'll just get rid of you.
Well,
and it's not okay. It seems to be a pattern now. And it's like, that's not how you deal with things.
Well, we'll talk about Miss Union on a different show. I've got to do a little more research on that. Now, the whole American Gods thing is an interesting thing because they've also cut Matt Sweeney and the Djinn.
Oh, God.
And with the rest of the cast members that have not returned, such as Gillian Anderson, Kristen Chenoweth, it's kind of one of those things where I'm going, all right, well, the Irishman is gone. The woman who shares a holiday with Jesus himself is gone.
Yeah, they're like getting rid of all the major people that were the reason that we started watching the show in the first place.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on this, Mike?
I think it's because they're losing their momentum, because there was a huge amount of time between seasons 1 and 2. You got to keep the momentum going or people lose interest, and the actors do too.
Yeah, the weird thing is, even though I'm out on season 3, I'm morbidly curious to see what they expect to do, especially concerning how they ended season 2. It was pretty much, from what I saw, how I perceived it.
I don't care if you spoil it for me. You can go ahead and talk.
The way I perceive it is Ibis, Bilquis, Anansi are going to form maybe their own alliance outside of New Gods or Old Gods. Then you have Shadow Moon, who's still there. Ricky Whittle. Ricky Whittle put out a very political post like, I love everybody.
And that's what we call job security.
Yeah, yo, man, I understand. Because imagine this. You're Ricky, you're chilling, kicking it at home. And you look on Twitter, and you're like, oh, what's going on? And then you see the video from Orlando, and you're like, oh, they're going to want to talk to me. Because it's like, everybody's going to essentially want to talk to all the black people on the show. But, so Ricky Whittle's still there. Cool. But season 2 also had a lot to do with Mad Sweeney and Dead Girl. So if Mad Sweeney's gone, I guess they're just going to pretend. I'm very interested to see what these first 2 episodes look like, just because maybe they'll just write it and pretend like we forgot. Like they were like they'll just do the show, like kind of like just move on and just not mention it, and they'll be like, hey, but
Nobody forgets anything, bro. There's streaming services. There's Google.
but I mean,
If they don't
Exactly.
get that,
because
then they really
I can't
are out of
see how they're
touch.
supposed. Because remember Salim and the Jinn, they went off, and then so I'm like. The only thing I can see is maybe them either A, recasting, or B, just moving on and pretending like, oh, they're off on the West Coast doing something, and pretending like
And just on a personal note, that infuriates me when they just drop a storyline like we ain't gonna notice. It's like, really? Put a bow on it at least, please.
the bow that they'll put on
Yeah,
it is
no,
like
that all of that is real. All of that's a real simple thing. And yeah, now I don't know if they fired Kirsten Chenoweth, but what I do, or Kristen Chenoweth, but I do know that she didn't return.
oh
And I recall the season finale of season 1 very well when they brought up she's Ishtar or Easter,
yep
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
she did that whole thing, but she wasn't at the meeting at the
nope
carousel, and and the whole I bet well essentially all the black people getting together to film a team. That's pretty much how season 2 wrapped up. Now season 3, Orlando Jones, who, let's face it, he's been in the game for coming up on 30 years. Okay,
Yeah.
30 years. Starting off with Mad TV, going on to the 7 Up commercials from the 90s, Make 7 Up Yours campaign, to prolific writing in various shows,
Drumline.
continuing with the Evolution with David Duchovny and the Time Machine remake. I mean, the dude's been working,
yeah
and he's probably gonna get work, but this is a big one, and the showrunner is kind of going, all right, we're dumping this character, and I want to talk a little bit about you for my viewers lacking color, kind of understand where we're coming from.
Yeah.
One of the things about this is racism with a hard
mm.
R consists of burning crosses, clan robes, swastikas, marching hate crimes. But that soft R racism
Is this kind
um,
of stuff.
has a very, very big sense of plausible deniability.
yeah
But the effect is a disproportionate amount of suffering onto specifically the group of people that have been talking about a disproportionate amount of suffering. This goes,
Yep.
you know, um, again, this channel we talk a lot about gaming, and the soft R is, even reflected in things like Dungeons and Dragons, because it's set in a fantasy European thing. Now, granted, um, there's nothing that explicitly says no blacks allowed, or no Latinos allowed, or no Iranians allowed, but the players that play already set their
yep
heads to fantasy Europe, which wasn't, which here in the States, the Silk Road and all that other stuff that shows that, our number system comes from the Middle East. Modern medicine was started in sub-Saharan Africa and all that, a lot of the history and all that stuff. That's not taught intrinsically. So
nah
players, because of the soft R, end up thinking in the mindset of regular times, and the whole soft R thing can be like reflected on crime, where people go, well, black people commit more crimes, we're just arrested more often, and there are more looking for us. You see, that's a big thing. Now, the way that this reflects on American Gods is the black person with most screen time of the black people on the show is the one that was fired. Um, Not the god that made the character who a Marvel comic was based on join the Nazi party. Was fine,
yeah
but anger gets stuff done. That's a bad message. So just given that
Yeah, because
incompleteness,
essentially he just joined the Nazi party just because he was like, oh, well, you'll get a free trip to America. It was like that was pretty much it.
well, either way though, joining the Nazi party and being a symbol for Nazis in a show that's made in 2017 filmed in 2017, aired in 2018, 2019.
Yep.
That doesn't send a bad message, but the speech from a year earlier talking about a
Fight
history
the
of
power.
America, that sends a bad message. Yes.
Yeah. It's
You know, so that
It's a
euphemism thing
message
that we're
I
talking
wanted to
about,
hear.
this is the big open question. You know, this is the thing that I'm challenging the viewers to think about. The homosexual Middle Eastern Jinn is out of the show. The black dude that says be angry and do something about it is out of the
It's out of the
show.
show.
But
and let me say
the
this.
dude that sold his son to a Nazi and then killed him when he said no, he's fine. He's fine.
Yeah, makes bullshit. It's bullshit.
And the
Yeah. Well, language. This is a family show.
Oh, my God. Sorry.
and
It's okay. You didn't know.
the way they handled him, meaning like Anansi's character, Jin's character, they weren't handled in ways where they were just tools, which I really enjoyed. You know, they weren't just like, hey, we're a prop here so that white people can feel something. You know, they had their
Yeah.
own thoughts, their own ideas, their own agency, and weren't just like lagging around and following around, you know, following everyone around.
Oh yeah, no,
So
they very much weren't sidekick characters, and they very much had an overwhelming thing, an overwhelming part. When we take a look at the show, I mean, I don't know if there's the pitch meeting of well, we're keeping the black woman who swallows people with her sexual organs. We'll keep that, but we gotta make we'll keep the gorgeous black woman, and we'll keep the dude that really doesn't do a whole lot except for play host and butler to everyone. But the proactive dude that gets angry and makes speeches, yeah, he's got to go. So I mean,
He's got to go.
Yep.
so
See, even little NERDSoul is
Yeah,
like,
well, that
dude,
to
yeah,
me, I
what's up
think
with
it
that?
speaks more to. Yeah, I think it speaks more to the director's mindset and just like what's on a lot of white people who constitute like the upper percent. Because, like Orlando said, like he's Connecticut born, he's Yale educated, and it's like this is kind of their idea of what they think of black people. Like if we showed something for them that really was for them, it's like then they're all gonna lash out in revolt. And it's like you're taking that mad literally, dude.
Well, I don't want to. I don't want to imply what the I don't want to imply what the showrunner thinks, but I do want to talk about what message his action conveys.
Yeah, that's what it conveys to me. Is like he's taking it mad literally.
Yeah, basically, by saying that character sends the wrong message, but not he'll explicitly say that character conveys the wrong message to the black community, but not explicitly saying what the right message is.
Yeah.
That really leaves open a lot of bad look interpretations, a
It
lot of
does.
bad looks. Again, I'm angry because again, Anansi is my family's patron god. He's tattooed on my back for God's sake. Long story, but wizard. Anyway, and to have the character cut from the show when the sequel book is about him and his sons, makes me think that this new showrunner is kind of trying to torpedo the franchise. So that's a thing. That's really a thing. So I don't
Which
know.
makes you wonder: do you think there's money in the torpedoing of a franchise? Because to me, you would be thinking he's hurting himself, right?
It is far beyond my intelligence level to try and discern the thought process of a television industry executive.
Yeah, I'm like, why would you do that?
Well, here's why I don't think it'll be dangerous for him. It's similar to a line in the show ATL or Atlanta, where Darius is telling Earn and Paperboy basically that white people always get chances. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he can go in, and he might even have a mandate from someone above him. Go in this show, get rid of these characters, get them out of here. So if
Yeah.
he's following,
And the idea that it did come from upstairs is a real big one that I think we should explore sometime.
yeah, because I think he's essentially the instrument to get this done. Because I'm pretty sure with stuff like we've seen from Anansi, stuff that we've seen in Watchmen, outstanding one random scene, we're starting to see writing and characters, black characters, placed in a way where we haven't seen before. And I think there are people in higher
Yes.
decision-making places that are not feeling that.
Okay.
And
All right.
you know, so either he,
Yeah, they just want narratives of us as slaves and
yeah,
victims. Yeah, they don't want narratives where they see us as gods and princes and princesses and I'm sorry, but it's like, people crave something new. Like there's a reason why Black Panther was so popular, and it wasn't just because it was another superhero movie. It's like we had a prince who was becoming a king,
yeah,
you know?
That actually goes into this next thing I wanted to talk to you guys
okay,
about. Because again, on Buster Recap, starting after January 3rd, we're going to be doing episode by episode discussions on the Watchmen. So that's a thing. But since the Watchmen officially wrapped up 3 days ago, it officially wrapped up 3 days ago with the season finale. I think we can talk a little bit, since I got a roundtable going. I want to talk a little bit about the Watchmen and a lot of the pushback, because there's been this thing on the internet ever since it started about the Watchmen and a few other comics being too political. For those of you guys in the back, political tends to mean too black.
yeah,
And it really is because they talk about they'll call sexism, sexism. They'll call immigrant stuff like, immigrants and, illegal stuff and all that stuff. But when it comes to something that's led by the children of the transatlantic mandatory unpaid internship program, that always gets the term political.
yeah,
Okay. Now let's face it, politics is a broad subject, but this word is only used when people that look like
yeah.
me or him or her are involved. And
it's very funny coming from the people that run politics, isn't it?
well, I'm only talking about the conversations online and reviews and stuff like that.
Oh, so
the
people that benefit from the people that look like them that run politics. Oh,
yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And the ones that suffer from those same people.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we live in a world where not very many people vote in their own self-interest, but that is another show. Hey, you're here!
Yeah, I lost my connection.
Okay. So what I'm looking at is this show, and big shout out to Warner Brothers. I'm really looking forward to doing Lord of the Rings, by the way, for taking the real risk of making a show with normalized, powerful black characters that says, all right, we are going to take a look at this country's history and we are going to address a certain part. And guess what? You're going to watch it anyway. Bring on the hate mail. That just means you're watching.
Exactly.
And there's been a lot of pushback from a lot of people online talking about that show. Now, it's known that this show is very well written, well directed, and for people that say get your politics out of it, read the trade paperback. There was nothing more political at the time that it was written in 1985 than the Cold War.
Yeah. And
so we know that they're not talking about politics, as it were. But the question that I have out there is, with the messages over social media and the internet in general, if people don't want to watch these stories or hear these stories or think about these mythological characters, then what do they want to talk about. Like, all right, we know what you don't like. Tell us what you like, and I'd like
What you do like?
what are your guys' thoughts on that? You situated, Kel?
Now I'm about to feed her, and she's about to pop off if I don't get some food. So they can
Oh,
go ahead
well,
and
you
take
know,
her.
babies pop off.
Well,
They do.
I think the issue of being too political comes from people that are uncomfortable with dealing with things that are great for them. Like, as black people, we are politicized 24/7. So, black speech, black hair, black bodies, black thoughts, any of that black art is always policed. So we come up in a political sense. Everything about our bodies are political and policed. So the only
Especially
people,
our hair.
yeah. So the only people that think it's too political are people that never have to worry about it. There's a certain section or a certain group of people that never have to worry about police officers or who's going to be the mayor or who's going to be their boss. You never have to worry about it. It's never going to be a situation for them. So whenever they're faced with, oh, this is something slightly real, and I might have to actually deal with something instead of just floating through life, now it's too political. It's like no, it's
So
not.
your
It's
thought
not too
is more
political.
the
It's just
ostrich effect.
regular political. It's just regular
Okay,
political.
so your thought is like it becomes political due to the ostrich effect.
Yeah,
Like I can't stick my head in the sand, and I don't like that.
yeah. It's like I wanted to watch this show that I thought was going to be about Don Johnson, and I found out it was about Regina King. And now, not only is it about Regina King, but it's about Regina King and her blackness and how that blackness correlates to the story in the show, the world around her, whether it's either locally, statewide, or national. And all of the people that look like her are essentially heroes in this story. It is very jarring for someone who's always been good, always been assumed the best of, to watch a show where it's like, wow, nobody in this show is good that looks like me. I know it's gotta hurt your feelings. It's gotta be interesting. It's gotta be weird, right? Like you look at a show and the only person you can be is drug dealer number 1 or gangbanger number 2. That's interesting.
I'm sensing a welcome to my world comment coming from you, and I get you on that.
But I
get
also I like the fact that it shows that regardless of a conservative president or a liberal president, white supremacy still finds a way to be pervasive in the culture because it has nothing to do with your liberal selves or your conservative selves. Racism is outside of politics. Racism uses politics as a tool to subvert people. But if politics did not exist, it's not like, oh, racism's gone. Everything's great.
That is a true thing. So yeah, this is just one of those gigs. So we'll talk more about the Watchmen after January. Of course, we're still going to be doing this show every Tuesday, but we're starting to run out of time. So the last thing that I want to bring up, since I got a roundtable, loving the roundtable, all that jazz, is with the blowback. Now, this firing of Orlando Jones reminds me a lot of the Me Too firing of James Gunn from the Guardians of the Galaxy. In the sense of there was a firing that happened and there's a bunch of fan outcry. A bunch. Mm-hmm. So do you guys think that Starz is going to backpedal and go, ooh, you know what? A lot of people are mad. Let's just give the guy his job back. And do you think this is a campaign that's going to come down to
Uh,
Runner or Orlando?
That's an interesting, because from the interviews that Orlando has done up until now, it seems like he's not really tripping on, like, it doesn't seem like he really wants the job back. And that might be worse news for Stars than it is for Orlando. Orlando's a talented dude. He'll be on
yeah.
something. But Stars only has 2 shows. And those 2 shows are black shows. You're talking about Power, which is in its final season that has like 5 episodes left. And you're talking about Stars, which has had a very distinct black voice and is the only reason it is popping. Nobody
Yeah.
is online sharing scenes of Ian McShane. And I got love for you, but ain't nobody sharing them scenes. Ain't nobody sharing those scenes of Dead Girl. Ain't nobody sharing scenes of Mad Sweeney. But what do we see scenes of? We see scene after scene after scene from Mr. Nancy or Ibis and Bilquist with Mr. Nancy going viral.
That's a very good point. That
They
is a very good point.
they blew it as a station because their station is surviving off of essentially like black ratings. Now, it might be a situation where they want to use blackness to get on, kind of like WB, and then switch it up to CW, maybe.
Okay.
But for right now, it's like, bruh, y'all ain't got too much going on. Ain't nobody.
What are your thoughts on this, Kel?
Well, like I said, it's like I'm kind of shocked that, a showrunner, because for one, I feel like as a showrunner, part of his obligation is to honor, as an adaptation of a book, is to honor the vision and, the intent of the book. And I feel by like firing or ridding the series of that character, he's not staying true to that, especially if there's another book that's a spinoff that stars that character. To me, it's just like you're just hemorrhaging money. And then on top of that, the whole thing with James Gunn, the reason that they were trying to fire him, they like went way back, early before he ever was anybody. And they were talking about all these controversial tweets he had. And, I think they just got scared because he had directed the first 2 films, got great feedback. And they're like, oh, well, and then they got letters from all the principal actors saying, hey, we want James back. So I think that's why they were willing to backpedal. But I do agree. It doesn't seem like Orlando's that worried because, like I told you, even before this talk, I've seen in other groups that, people have been reaching out to him, talking about some dude, let's start this spin-off right now. He's been giving his agent's number out to people. So he's ready to, just start and do his own thing, like independently. So
Yeah, and
it's really going to be their loss if they, if they just let him go.
yeah, and in this day and age of Tyler Perry Studios, where you ain't got to go crying to Disney, you ain't got to go with you don't have to take your hat in your hand.
And that was one of the places they mentioned.
Now
see, I was going to bring
in that
that
dialogue
up.
that
I was
Tyler
definitely
Perry
going to bring
Studios
up.
came up. They're like, bruh, they said, come on down to Georgia, we'll hook you up. They're like, we got writers. They're like, we can do this.
Yeah, see, that was one of the things I was going to bring up on that too. See, 30 years ago, the model was a little different. Now, I'm thinking because of the pervasive nature of streaming services and original content that's out there. I mean, let's be real. All right, let's talk about the big 3 being Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu. But beyond them, we've got YouTube with their own studio. We've got Disney Plus that's coming out and doing their thing. Even BET's got a streaming service. So about a year and a half ago, Dan Harmon, creator of Community and Rick and Morty and all that stuff, said that there's a lot more work for people in entertainment. It just doesn't pay as much as it did back in the early 2000s. So the idea that this would end Orlando Jones's career, that's ludicrous. But my question,
that's not happening.
Now, do you guys think, and this is tinfoil hat time? Y'all ready for your tinfoil hats?
got mine ready.
All right. So, do you think that other production houses for other channels or streaming services like AMC or Turner or BET or Tyler Perry or Netflix or Amazon or Hulu. Do you guys think that there is a possibility that they're going to be hitting Jones and Gaiman to do a Nazi Boys with Orlando Jones as the showrunner? Like, do you guys think that, say, Tyler Perry Studios would be one of the people that would do that?
I would definitely be sniffing around to see who owns the rights to Anansi Boys. Like I would definitely be sniffing around and see, because I don't know if Stars bought it as like a package or if Stars only got American Gods. Because if they only got American Gods and I was Tyler Perry, I'd be like, hey, yo Neil,
slide into my DMs.
holla at your boy.
Holla.
Let's get this going.
All right, that's the thing. But this is about out of time because I only like to keep the show going for about an hour on Tuesdays. Because post production, uploading, and all that jazz and all that stuff. Though we are live, I want to specially thank our panel today because this is the first time we've done a panel show. And I want to thank you guys for showing up. I specifically called up NERDSoul because he and I did have a crossover for the season finale of season 1. So we've been doing the whole American Gods thing. But where can they check you out, bruh?
You can check me out at NERDSoul, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Spotify for some cool music from me. I also have iHeartRadio podcasts. Check me out, search me up, hit that like button. You can hit that dislike button, but I'm going to send Charles Eglee after you. And he going to tell you what you do and don't need.
All right, thank you. And Miss Kelly, if they want to get a hold of you, where would they do? Or are you not on the internet presence on this right now?
I am on Facebook. It's Kelly Kawaii Finn, and then on Instagram I'm Kel C Bell, and then it's KELLCBELL, and I got my casting journey posted on there along with all the other fun things that I do.